Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. This is Dave from Mile Marker Zero here with John Tuohy from Mile Marker Zero, and this is the Hour Zero podcast we are doing bi-weekly. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Dave. Sorry, I was actually rocking out to your song before. We're here with In the Presence of Wolves. Guys,
hey,
hey
guys.
What's going on, guys?
I legit had to mute my headphones so that I could listen to it from my phone while we were streaming. So
it's a good time.
We're killing. So we're here with Chris and we're here with Vini. So guys, say what's up to everybody. How you doing?
Hey, everybody.
Hey, all the bored peoples on the interwebs. What's up?
The interwebs.
Interwebs.
This is the portal to real life. This is the only thing that's left is the internet.
That's all we got.
Is this the real life or is this just fantasy?
Nice.
Ooh,
nice. That's nice. John, is that a beverage or is that just a giant? Is that like a mortar?
No, it's just it's boring old water for now.
Oh, awesome. Well, yeah. So we wanted to have the In the Presence of Wolves guys on primarily because they're one of our favorite bands, especially in the Northeast area in the progressive metal genre. So, what was that first tune we heard, guys?
Oh, that one was White Noise off of our last album, Ape in the Cage.
Yeah, album did very well for you.
Yeah, it was great, and I didn't notice how much necessary noodling was in that song, and it's a good time.
There's a lot of noodling.
There's a lot.
Listen, there's a lot of bands that play in 7. We're a band that plays in 7.
Mm-hmm.
And you guys noodle every permutation of 7 that probably is, cohesively, that will work together. I also noticed the other day, Mason, your drummer, had put up a screenshot of some new material and the BPM markings per section. Oh, yeah. I made a mental note of that. Is he the kind of guy? Is he the kind of guy that will do different tempo markings and not keep a consistent 16th note pulse? Does he do a lot of tempo changes in the clicks and stuff when you're writing?
No, that's me actually.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So Mason is now new to the world of home recording. He just got himself a laptop, Pro Tools, and it's been wonderful. It's awesome.
Oh
yeah. So I've had a Pro Tools rig for a while now. It was actually my college graduation gift, and it's served me well over the years, especially for this band. So I typically had done the demos beforehand, and I'm the kind of person, on the production side of things, I'll make microscopic adjustments to BPM per section because Mason's a very lively drummer. He's very excited, and that was something that I tried to capture and kind of make feel natural, so that when he would be going into a next section where he would automatically, if we were playing live, be ramping up, that would be built into the song. So I think he's done a little bit of that himself now, and he's also he's like us, he's a big music nerd, loves prog stuff and weird time signatures and everything, so he's been doing a lot of that himself too.
Yeah. It's weird. It's crazy how 3 to 5 BPM will really change everything. I know that on our record we did the same thing. Originally it was all straight, and then we went back to some of the demos, and I might have played drums in one section, and then my brother played right, and so we were like, well, this was different here. So because Dave rushes all the time. I'm always rushing. So we made certain sections faster, slower. Doug sits back a lot more. So I was like, oh yeah, let's just kind of write the clicks in that way when we're that way it feels more natural and things sit in better pockets. So I completely am on board with that. I was also going to ask, and I'm sorry, I'm just diving right in, but
go for it.
Did that track? Are you guys doing any solid state stuff, or is it all amps on that record? Because it sounds like amps. But
I think we were all tubed up and boutiqued up, especially where we record with Kevin Andresian at Backroom. He's your guitar guy. Any amp you could ever want, he's got it. So I think we took full advantage of all the tubeness that we could possibly muster in that studio.
Well, I know there was at least a day where with guitars where we just sat with all of the amps and stuff. And with the first record that we did, Justin, our former guitarist, still love him to death, still a good friend of ours, most of his stuff was done with an AXS effects, whereas I've always stuck with tube amps. and that's something that now Kevin, funnily enough, is like super against. He's all in, everything. He's all against modeling and profiling and all that kind of stuff.
I remember specifically a gig we played with you guys. I forget what room it was, a few years ago anyway. And I remember, Chris, you saying, "Oh, yeah, look at this fly rig I got. This thing's great." And I remember looking it up, and I don't know, did you actually play out of that night? I think you might have. Or were you just messing?
I mean, it's something I've played so many shows with that
because it sounded awesome to me. And this, if anybody doesn't know, this this Fly Tech 21, right?
Yeah.
Fly rig is like it's this little mini. It's $300 or $400 modeler thing, and you sounded awesome, dude. It sounded, I mean, maybe not 100% of the way there, but your playing is so good that you're really not going to notice it. To me, I still use modeling, so I'm guilty of that too.
Well, firstly, thank you. But yeah, that thing. So I like that pedal a lot because I refer to it as like the meat and potatoes. It's just overdrive and delay, which to me are the most important parts of my sound. And for be it clean stuff, dirty stuff, leads, it's kind of all right there. And similarly, at the same time, Mason really streamlined his drum rig, where his first record he had like, I don't know, a dozen cymbals or something silly like that, like 80 toms. It was huge. And the second record he streamed down to a 3-piece kit. So there's something about not having a lot of options that I think really opens up different avenues of creativity and forces you to be more creative with less. Yeah.
Especially like a lot of the aggro, more aggressive drummers and band, like it's all small kits. I mean, look at Dillinger, right? It's like kick, snare, floor tom.
But yeah,
like some cymbals,
that was the big thing for Mason. I mean, when we went into the second record, and we actually had our own space to record some demos and stuff like that, he started using a small baby kit, and I remember saying to him like, "Hey, why don't you maybe start using the kit that you might use on the record?" He's like, "I'm using this." And I'm like, "What are you talking about? You're using that?" And he's like, "I'm gonna give it a shot." So, and it turned out to be, the best thing for him.
It's funny too, because he would only set that stuff up because he didn't feel like getting everything out. We would all be there and be like, let's get going. Whether it was, this would frequently be after we had played a show and we had dropped everything off and we had to set everything back up. So as opposed to setting up a full kit, he would go super minimal, and then it just stuck.
I mean, at the end of the day, it's also great for a touring band like you guys, because the less shit you got to put into the van, the more room you can lay down or more merch you can bring, right? And then when it's raining and you're schlepping like 3 blocks, you don't have to worry about, 15 toms. Right. It's funny, like when we did our record, Doug was like, "I'm going to just make the biggest drum kit that I could come up with and try to fit." Yeah. It was like the complete opposite. It was like, he went old school with like just huge, like, huge 70s, 80s kind of approach to it. And then when he plays it live, he doesn't have any of it. It's like he has like, 2 toms maybe. But yeah, like when I used to tour around and play, it was the same exact thing. It started out with some stuff. By the time you played like 30 shows, it was like, I'd be lucky if I brought the floor tom in.
Yeah.
Like kick, snare, some cymbals. No one's going to hear this shit anyway. It's like just play on the snare, like just rip it that way,
Just hit the snare.
Yeah, really.
Hit it.
One thing I wanted to ask you guys about, which we're sort of finding this now. We're sort of in a similar situation, not just because everybody's in a similar situation right now, all musicians, but I mean that's one aspect we could talk about. But we have a member, Jocko, our bass player, who lives in Portland. The Oregon one. Yeah. And, and we found that writing this time around is definitely a different sort of dynamic. I don't think it's, for us, it's not necessarily worse or better. It's a different way that we've been working. We used to kind of hash it out in Jocko's recording room, and we would, do these parts and just kind of get basic demos, and then we kind of go back and add our sprinkles at home, and then everybody would assemble, the typical. Now it's hard to do. So for you guys, in sort of the situation you're in, where you guys aren't all in the same 15-mile radius anymore, right? So how does that process change for you guys? And what are the pros and cons that you're finding?
Well, it's all a lot slower. um, but yeah, so to give some background to this, I was the asshole in the band, and I moved to Atlanta about a year and a half ago, whereas the rest of the band is still in the Philly, New Jersey area. So it put us in an interesting position where it's like, if you want to keep doing this, you have to change. And what we're seeing now, I think everybody's seeing it, and how now more than ever, it's actually not too difficult to be able to do this from a distance, especially if multiple members have recording rigs and stuff. You're able to send files back and forth. So to me, part of the pro was I always liked kind of being in my own headspace when I was writing, and moving out not only gave me that, but also at the time, mentally, I'm somebody that has been very fortunate to not had to deal with a lot of mental illness stuff. But I was certainly not in a good point towards the end of my tenure in Jersey. And it was certainly not at all because of the band. That was saving grace. But moving here has been wonderful for my own, for everything, really. It's been great for my peace of mind. And that only leads to being more creative and stuff. So I've been able to do a lot from here and then send it to the guys, and they give me their thoughts, like this, don't like this. And now that Mason has a Pro Tools rig, Jim now has a Pro Tools rig.
Oh, cool.
And I'm a douchebag.
It's all it's actually now kind of all coming together, which is awesome and really, really exciting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It was difficult at first, just because it was a little jarring, because I feel like Cap was like a real driving force in regards to how we used to write and this, that, and the other. So I think the three remaining Jersey Philly members we needed to get our footing in how we were going to deal with Cap's absence. And then in the past couple of months, I think we started to realize that it really wasn't an absence. You know what I mean? It was like, Cap was still sending us files like he would. And then once I started thinking of it as, Cap's still down the street, he just can't make practice every once in a while. You know what I mean? I think it was all about the headspace that we were in, and the different mindsets. So I think, like I said, in the past couple months, we've really gotten our footing, and things are starting to come together, which is really nice. Oh yeah, it's so nice, especially. Especially since Mason got his Pro Tools rig. I mean, he's MVP status right now. Like he's staying up all hours of the nights and just sending us stuff. Especially like with him adding drums to what Cap has sent us. I think that may have been like the missing piece that we needed to like really push forward and get a big perspective on where we actually are. And to be honest, we have an insane amount of music. It's just trying to piece it together and see where it fits in, the next stage of ITPOW.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the big con is that it's really hard to maintain momentum. That's something that I've been kind of talking to the guys about. And with Mason now getting this Pro Tools rig and stuff, it's that kind of, it's the snowball that's falling down the mountain, and it's picking up more and more snow. And it's like, okay, now he's got his thing going. Let me try to hop in on that and see if we can just keep that momentum going. Whereas before, it's very easy to send something, and then everybody listens to it that day, and then you don't hear from anybody for a while because everybody's doing their own thing. So momentum is really the tough thing to get going in circumstances like these.
It's different when you have like scheduled writing times in person, right? Where you're like, all right, 3 times this week we're doing this, or next week I'll see you on Sunday, or like whatever it is, right? Then you have like all these markers, but when you don't have that sort of touch base in person, it's different doing it this way, right? We found that we've had fits and starts where we'll do a ton of stuff, and then it'll be like stuff happens, and then it's cooled off for 2 weeks, and then it's like, wait, no, hold on, we have more ideas, and it's like, it's not as consistent as normal, I guess.
It's weird to honestly be more capable and connected than we've ever been, but feel like so distant at the same time. It's a really like unique writing experience, to your point. It kind of feels like I hear like Mark playing keys, I hear John playing, but it just it doesn't really like feel like it in a way.
Yeah.
It's like I know those guys and I recognize those guys, but like you kind of miss that interaction. So for me at least, one of the reasons why we have the setups that we have that we're doing this Zoom call on, it was really kind of put in place so that we can like interact and communicate and play tracks and like be like on a, in a little gallery view and say, what do you think of this? What do you think of that? Can you play this? Like, is it perfect fidelity? No. But if in terms of like form, or like we need a pad here, or we need like a big riff here, like, it's easy to kind of just throw those ideas out there, and John's on his thing and just can throw it down, and then I can push record. It's like, it's kind of, it's just changed so much. I do just, and maybe it goes back to my very first, one of my first questions about like the tubiness. I miss like loud, just like music, like loud, like I can come down here and crank up my monitors and like blast it, but I do miss like, just being in a room with live drums and just hearing it just wail, and I just can't wait for that. I know that we've talked about doing a writing camp once all the tunes are kind of ducks in a row. Like it seems like it's coming together. Let's just get in a room for like a couple weeks when Jocko's back from Portland and just kind of hash it all out. But we completely sympathize for that new approach, but to your point, it's also great because it's changed the pre-production game by a lot. Because now you could just like show up to the studio and say, well, this is what we were going for. Maybe you reamp it through their gear. Maybe you take that keyboard patch you put in. I know Vini didn't put it in because he hates that. But like maybe there's like a sound effect or something, right? But maybe there's like a sound effect or something that you're like, I kind of like the one we had on the demo. It's right there. You just steal it and fly it in. So it's made bands more prepared and things like that. But it is a longer process. It's also because it's too easy to get caught up in like the minutia, because now you can be like, I'm gonna throw what's this compressor sound like, and next thing you know, you're doing like post-production like EQs and stuff, and you're not really writing. That's what happens to me. I'm like, oh, this effect is sick, but yeah, that's kind of where we are. We're kind of in a similar situation right now.
No. Yeah, it's very easy to let technology like that, like messing around with it, get in the way of actually playing. And I actually just watched a video, some guy talking about how guitar shopping to him was getting in the way of guitar playing. And ultimately, I'm starting to take the Prince approach, where I don't care about tweaking things. Like, okay, that's the sound I'm going for. Cool, close enough. Let's go. I just did a little video a few days ago. The guys in Reign of Kindo did this little TV theme challenge, and I was like, ooh, I want to do this. And I had the idea of doing the X-Men theme from the 90s. And
that's awesome. It's an awesome song.
Yeah. And so I came up with this cool idea on how to use, we all use the Line 6 Helix in this band. So I had this idea. I was like, I can do looping, and I can do bass pedals and stuff with this. So it's like, let me just throw something together real fast so that I can now do this and play it, as opposed to like, all right, I got to have this. Let's get the right feedback on the delay for the lead part and make sure my mids are cutting through just right. So it's very easy to let technology get in the way of creativity, despite it being there to enhance creativity.
Now, do you find that attitude extends to when you're actually demoing for the band something that you've written? Will you program a drum part? And this is sort of what I was thinking for bass, or are you kind of doing that same approach you were just talking about for the X-Men cover? Or were you kind of like stepping back and saying, all right, here's a loop, here's my part, here's kind of a thing? Like how deep do you get, Chris?
I try to just get it done, and in some ways as fast as I can without it being absolute shit. Because there's other, I'm for the first time now since I've moved to Atlanta. Before I lived with my parents, and I had a different job where I had a lot more free time, and now I'm suddenly working a full-time job, and I have cats to take care of, one of which desperately wants to get out of my room right now. And I have roommates and my lady and stuff, so I don't have as much time, as much as I would love to dedicate to this stuff. So it's like, okay, how can I get this done and good enough. For the studio and the actual album, that's when it needs to be polished and everything needs to be as perfect as we can get it. But in terms of getting the idea to tape and getting it to the guys, clearly, that's to me the priority.
Yeah.
So Chris, you've been down there for a year and a half, you said, in Atlanta? Yep. So what's something you miss about being up here? Is it
Wawa.
food? Is it Wawa?
Pork rolls.
Okay, well, we all know Wawa's. Okay, outside Wawa, because we'll all just, okay, we get it. Wawa is fantastic. We don't have it up here. Know. We don't even have it up here in Connecticut, New York, so I get it. But outside Wawa and being with the band, obviously, what's stuff that you miss from being up at this, this neck of the woods? If anything, you could say absolutely nothing, and Atlanta is just as bad in every way. I wouldn't.
Certainly don't miss the cold. That's for sure. And snow. We had snow one day, I guess, back in the winter time, and it was like the most surreal thing because I hadn't seen snow in so long. But yeah, I mean, food is definitely a big thing. Like the pizza here it's pizza, but it's not, New York, New Jersey pizza. Soft pretzels, pork roll, not Taylor ham, it's pork roll.
Pork roll.
That's definitely the big thing. But of course, miss family and friends the most. I've always been more of an introverted person that, I spent a lot of time alone. So in some ways I'm perfectly fine with this, but even now, where everybody's in a situation where everybody's kind of isolated, I think it's, even though it's not all that different for me, I've certainly been trying to reach out to people more. And that's something that I've missed my friends.
Miss you too, man. I know it's been a long, hard road. You know what I mean?
A lot of people seem to like, relocating seems like a hot topic right now for a lot of people, just getting the hell out of the cities or getting the hell out of the Northeast. At least when I talk to my friends and people that I work with, outside of the band and things, it just seems like everyone wants out. But, I can't take the cold anymore. I don't know. I think it's, the older I get, the more I'm just like, I don't want it, man. I just don't want it. Just don't care. I used to not mind. You'd be like, oh, snow, cool. Like, we'll go out. We'll tool around in the truck, like whip around, have fun. Now it's like, nope, I just don't want it. Ain't nobody got time for that. But yeah, so let's talk about the new record. So you said you have a ton of material, right?
Yeah.
A ton of material you're working on. The last album you did was like conceptual work, right? Even it wasn't like a classic, if you will, like narrative concept album in a way, but it was collectively conceptual, right? Was it an actual story?
Yeah.
It's a mix of
both. It wasn't like it wasn't musical theater. Maybe that's a better way to put it. It didn't seem like I'm being serious. It wasn't like a rock opera. It was but carrying from that into the next thing, are you going to do something conceptual again, or is it going to be just like a series of songs? Have you made that decision yet?
Man, we got 3 more parts to do. Strap in.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know if you're going to do them right away. I don't know. Some bands come back, like, so you're just going to go for it.
Yeah, I think.
Well, ultimately,
go ahead. Yeah. I love you.
I was going to say, ultimately, where we're at now is lots of instrumental material. So a lot of it's going to be how Vini responds to that music, and some of it may strike him in the same vein as the stuff that has come before. Some of it may not, and that's cool too. But I know that we've certainly, I've joked to the guys, I'm like, I want to finish these stages through 5 is the last thing I do. So I think the goal is to keep going with the concept. Certainly, I think a lot of the music that we've been writing is with that intent. But who's to say?
Who's to say?
It might Metropolis Part 1 and then 15 years later 2 type thing. I mean, you never know.
Yeah, you try to keep things open. But yeah, definitely. I hope. Yeah. I hope 15 years. That'd be nice. But I think for me, writing the story for the last album was really therapeutic because it dealt a lot with mental illness and stuff like that. So anytime, I'm definitely not ready to like let go of the story or the concept and how it helps me write. I always thought it's a lot easier for me if I have a story or a theme or a character or something like that I can write with, instead of just going, well, this is a song about an ex-girlfriend, I hope you enjoy it. That was never really my bag. But yeah, I think the consensus is to push forward with the story that the last album started, so we can finish it, and then we'll see what comes from there. Yeah, so it's kind of exciting.
Vinny, when you write, do you normally get music first and then write lyrics, or have you ever written lyrics first and then kind of like try to socket them into the tune?
It's funny, lately I've been trying to like, every once in a while, if I just have like a cool lyric, oh, this sounds cool, I'll jot it down. So maybe I can have that just to like as a jumping off point. I know that the first verse in The One Who Fell to Earth off the last album, I already wrote that. And then it just so happens that it just fit perfectly with what Cap threw at me. So sometimes it works both ways. I try not to, limit myself in any way. I do love having music first, just because it's a good indication that everybody else is excited. And then I can add a melody to it, which hopefully makes them more excited. You know what I mean? So it's like, I feel like I'm really contributing. But yeah, I'll work with either or. It really doesn't matter to me. Depends on what happens. It's case to case. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I feel, I do the same kind of thing, I guess. Like, I'm very like triggered. Like the music kind of like just tells me what to do when I hear stuff. Yeah. I don't think, maybe only a couple times have I ever written some actual like text and said, I want to use this someday. Other than, to your exact point, if I were to go through my phone, whether it's band names, track names, or just one-liners, I've got like a Google, like, like a G Note, right, or whatever that app is, and it's just like just full of just like, I send it to John all the time. I'm like, yo, check out these album titles, and some of them, honestly, I'm like, yo, that's fucking rad. There's some really rad stuff in there. It would never work for our band, but some of them are super cool. But yeah, so I get that. I know there's a lot of people that like to write lyrics up front, and that's kind of how they express themselves. Yeah. For me, I kind of like need to like, I hear stuff and let it kind of, woo me, if you will, and play it by ear after that.
I think I am starting to explore like the more poetic nature of being a vocalist. It's like, I play bass in the band, but most of the time, what Cap or Jim or even Mason will write is already on the money. Mm-hmm. So it's like, cool, I'll just play what you wrote, and then I'll actually dive into a melody or the lyrics. And I told Mason, because he's been demoing like crazy, and I'm like, listen, if you have a bass line in your head that already fits with the music, what's the point of me trying to come up with my own if you've written this song and you have your whole vision in front of you? So I was just like, put it in, and if it doesn't work for me, then I'll change it. But if it does, then it's already there. So, sometimes it just helps that way. And,
it's kind of like, it's like piling into a car, and there's a couple people that know exactly where they want to go, and everyone else has no idea, but you put them in the driver's seat and tell them just go somewhere, and they're like, where do you want to go? It's like, then you just fucking drive. It's like just, and I think that's, no, seriously, I feel like, we're a very democratic crew in our band. So I've tried to, don't change something for the sake of changing it, unless it's absolutely necessary, unless you hear something that is marginally different or better, unless you just want to have a moment to experiment and mess around. But good case in point, like John, similar to Chris, John is a very like, full suite kind of guy when he like sends a song. Like, it's like, I hear there's drums, there's keyboard, there's guitars, there's even a vocal part, there's some lyrics. Like, it's a full tune. Very different than what I do, where it's like, yo, Tuohy, you like this? And I send it to John, and he's like, yeah, it's cool. We should write something like that.
Exactly. That's pretty much exactly what I do with Cap.
Yeah, it's
like, hey, man, I wrote this pop song. Can you make it sound like In the Presence of Wolves? All right, I'll see you in a week.
So you're putting it 18, or what are we doing with this?
Yeah.
But like, I think that you kind of need those types of dynamics, because some people are, you need like chain movers, like people that could just like keep like, what do you think of that? Like, just like, here's the whole thing. And then, it's good to have people that are just like, What about like something like that? Is that cool, guys? If it's not cool, I'm gonna go work on something else. Like, I think you kind of need both of those people in your band. But that being said, let's go to the chat. John, don't we have any questions in the chat?
We got a couple comments and some questions. Well, we'll go for a comment first. Lisa Callahan says, I get to hang out with you guys instead of a crazy madman talking about her husband, Joe.
Is this a call for help?
They have watched every single one of these, by the way, since we started, and they're great fans and great people. So,
blink 3 times if you're in trouble.
Yeah.
And we do have a question from Ricketson Dan, and he says, what bands influence your music careers and why?
Good Lord.
How do you feel that?
Is that
Imagine Dragons?
Every day, every single day, we do nothing but Imagine Dragons.
Too bad they stole that name from you guys then.
No, like I think ITPOW, like from the beginning, our influences were all over the place. So, you know, when we started, I think me and Cap were like, let's just make an Incubus Police hybrid that's heavier. You know what I mean? And now, you know, I think ever since we've been recording with Kevin, you know, the Dillinger Escape Plan has been a huge like influence in our life. But we did do, you know, I wanted to revisit this. I know, Dave, I think you mentioned it like at the beginning when you were like, yeah, what were the 25 albums that influence, you know, Mile Marker Zero? Well, we did a 5 out, like when we were promoting the last record, we got asked that question, like 5 top records that influence our music. And it was the first time that we had to sit down and figure out like
actually talk about it.
Yeah, no, it was great because I know that we're all
4-way Venn diagram.
Yeah, and figure out what's in the middle. So I think the 5 that we had, it was like Dave Brubeck's Time Out, Miss Machine, Delouse,
oh yeah,
Discipline,
King Crimson,
and there's one more. We always forget one.
Yeah.
Is it a pop album? Where does our pop influence come from?
It might have been Purple Rain. Who's just as far as I know.
It wasn't Purple Rain. It was I forget what it is. I'm sure we'll remember it. But yeah, it's like, you know, I always say that we're, you know, the love child between, you know, Coheed and Cambria and like Discipline era King Crimson that was brought up listening to Dillinger. You know what I mean? So
that's really accurate. I love that.
Oh, so we get asked it all the time. So, you know, we never really fit anywhere on shows or gigs or festivals, and one time
I'm sure you guys can sympathize with.
Yeah,
definitely.
John and I love Discipline.
Yeah.
Friend, my friend, death by drowning in your...
We were trying to do a cover of that with Kevin. Oh, sorry, my cat's tail is just loosey.
Hey, cat, what up?
Move.
Man, go,
we were trying to do a cover of Frame by Frame because that was a huge song for us. But I got stuck doing the damn Fripp.
Dude,
we played that.
I got about like 30 seconds. I'm like, it's over.
Yeah,
for like 48 minutes straight.
Yeah.
So can I say something about that song and covers of that song, and a plug? So this coming Monday, we're sitting down with a guy named Joe Denninson, and his group does a cover of that song, and we played a show with him in Nyack, New York. When was that, John? In the fall?
November.
Yeah. So, and he's a violin player, and he rips
the part, and it was ridiculous.
And he just rips, and like he sings his ass off, and he can shred, and that was probably one of the best covers of that song that I've heard a band do.
Yeah.
And, if I could find it online, I'll put it up on Facebook or something. I'll tag it and I'll send it to you guys because it's killer if you're into that record and that tune. Actually, the copy of that CD that I have, John, was given to me by Michael Kaplan.
Oh wow!
Sorry, Michael, I never gave it back to you. Sorry, I have it. It's somewhere. I feel bad. I actually have it.
The truth comes out on Facebook Live.
It does.
Oh.
He's not. If he's watching, I'm sorry. If he's not watching, I'm not sorry. I'm just joking. I'm sorry. I actually am. But yeah, it's a huge record.
As far as the sort of the widespread influence thing, I mean, I think that's one of the things that we sort of connected band to band on early, where maybe when we're actually writing and when everything finally comes together for us, you might not notice some of the disparities, but if you were to go into our individual week by week, what we listen to or what we're practicing or whatever, what we're jamming to, it's very different. Our Venn diagrams are pretty, there's a little touching in the middle. And we had to do the same thing for the last record, same exact sort. Yeah. Touching in the middle. Right. But that's what rehearsal's for. We had to do the same thing and sort of figure out like, okay, well, what are the, can we pick 4 albums that were like, oh yeah, we all like it's in our top 10 and we could, but it was hard, But that's sort of but I think for you guys, that's really what makes you guys sound so unique. Is the blending of all these different things and the fact that each of you are really strong instrumentally and can have a very strong sort of bent a particular way, and then once it gets all stirred up in the pot, it's cool, it's very unique, and you guys are extremely identifiable. If I'm listening to an internet radio station and you guys pop on, I'm like, oh, this is definitely ITPOW, like without question.
Good. Oh, also I thought of that 5th album, by the way. It was In Its Century.
Oh, what is it?
Oh, nice.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Okay, good. As it probably should be.
We had Andy Vendette on Monday, who mastered that record.
Wow.
And Adam Holtzman, who was the keyboard player for Porcupine Tree, and Steven Wilson.
Yeah.
Sorry, Steven Wilson. And
you guys are cool kids.
Yeah, it was awesome.
Yeah, so we started doing this thing, and like we start asking people.
All these cool people, and now us.
No, man, you guys are. What are you guys talking about? You guys are awesome. That's what.
Hey, man,
we only have awesome people.
Best friend.
But yeah, it's weird how just like where these people come from, like, the backgrounds that they have, the types of music that they listen to, and then like the bands that they play in that we like are like they're very different than like what these people are really into. It's kind of funny how, I mean, I love Rush and I don't listen to that much of that style of progressive music, right? And we play a lot of that kind of prog now. But like, I mean, I listen to like hip hop and like video game music. Like I pulled back out. If you guys are like video game music, I know you probably don't, Vinny, because it's synthy. But there's a great album called Fez. I'm gonna keep saying it because I know that's.
Dude, I keep going.
There's a great record for the game Fez, Fez, by a guy named Disaster Piece. Awesome. Tunes are killer. Like, there's no vocals, obviously. It's just melodies and like cool pads and sounds. It's really awesome. I highly suggest checking it out.
Well, hey, I mean, Incubus did that whole suite for the one Halo game.
Yeah.
Yeah, Halo 2.
Crazy awesome. But, I mean, to piggyback off of what you said, I don't even think we listen to all that much, like, strictly progressive music anymore. I mean, it's definitely an influence, and, like, it's really nice to jump back into that every once in a while to put on, like, a Porcupine Tree album. But, I mean, mostly I know I listen to, like, strictly pop most times just because the pop structure is very interesting to me and how you can manipulate it and vocal melody. And then, maybe I'll jump into like Between the Buried and Me every once in a while. But like kind of exactly what you said, like if people knew what we were actually listening to, they'd be like, how are you even a prog band?
Right.
Because I know when we were writing the last album, I was listening to so much Ed Sheeran. It was insane. So it was just like when I was writing White Noise, I remember like when I was writing the melody to White Noise, I was like, how poppy can I get this? So I just listened to a bunch of Ed Sheeran, and that was the melody that kind of came out.
That's awesome. So it's funny is our single off the last record, The Architect, the main, I don't even know if I want to say it because people are going to be like,
go ahead.
I just name dropped Ed Sheeran, man.
So all I can say is if you listen to Justin Timberlake,
sure,
I rip a lot of his ideas because he has a couple licks that he sings a lot in his not like, his like, acrobatic licks, but like in his actual like notable vocal melodies, he has a couple of lines that he uses a lot, and I rip those all the time because they're great.
Good.
By rip them, I mean like I use them in ROA, but they're inspired by Justin Timberlake.
Steal them.
Yeah. Those vocal licks made thousands upon thousands upon thousands of dollars. Steal that shit.
Yeah, I mean,
you don't need to borrow it. They don't need it.
Yeah, I mean, there's only, look, things that are aesthetically pleasing. I mean, it gets kind of narrow. The higher up in the echelon you go, the more similar they start to get, right? I mean, that's just kind of how it is.
Let me bust in for a sec. We got a couple more questions in the chat.
Bust in.
So Jake says, who played piano on the Stages record?
Stages. Oh, what on? I guess on the most recent one.
Oh,
Kevin.
Yeah. Some of it was plugged in. Some of it I remember doing, and some of it is stuff that sound like some of it's Mellotron stuff that I played on guitar with a pedal. There's a lot. I feel like most of the special effecty kind of things are just heavily affected guitars. But I know Kevin in the mixing stage always throws in some interesting stuff, whether it's synth pad or Star Wars noises.
Star Wars sounds. Yep.
Several Star Wars sound effects.
Wilhelm scream.
I only know of like one or two of them myself.
And he doesn't tell us where they are.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
One of these days, you get the master files and just dig through and go, oh, there it is, third verse.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
like, what the fuck? Chewbacca was in here this whole time?
Man, we got him in the studio. He was expensive. But no, I think the lead part, the intro lead to The One Who Fell to Earth, Kevin wrote. Didn't he, Cap? That boo. Didn't he throw it in there? And then we were just like, oh, okay.
Yeah, I feel like that was one of the more last minute, like, there would always be one day where Kevin and I would just sit there and do ear candy with guitar stuff, and that may have stemmed from that. Lots of Ebo things. But actually, now I'm remembering, obviously, the first track on the album has piano, and I think that was Vini because Vini had written whole pieces.
That's me. Why do I forget about that track constantly? Yeah, that's me. I played that. What up?
That's awesome. We got one more question here from an unknown person, actually not unknown, Kathleen Capitano.
Oh my goodness.
Which said,
that's my mom.
What inspired you to play the guitar versus other instruments?
Oh, she wants to start some shit, I think. So at the time, I'd stopped playing basketball because I was really good at the bench, and I would stop art lessons, and I wasn't doing all that much. So my parents were like, "Okay, you got to do something. You need to go back to art lessons or play an instrument." And originally, I wanted to play drums, and my parents said, and I quote, "This is not me. This is my parents." Raised the pitchforks in Glassboro, New Jersey. They said you have to learn a real instrument first.
Right.
And I always, at the time, I thought back to the guitar solo from 25 or 6 to 4 from Chicago was what solidified guitar as a rad instrument to me.
Nice.
So that was always number 2. So I was like, okay, I'll play guitar. And then my life ended up being substantially better for it. So I guess thank you, Mom and Dad, for not letting me play drums.
Don't let your babies grow up to be drummers or whatever the song is.
Yeah. Nah, that sucks because I started on drums.
MMZ has 3 drummers in the band, so.
Hey, man, it always helps with rhythm.
Yeah, and then nobody wants to play drums ever again.
Yep.
Doug's a professional video gamer. Our bass player was a drummer. He plays guitar like a mother, and I'm singing or trying. I guess it makes you realize that this is not what you should do. Yeah, you're playing drums. You're like, I want that guy's job. That guy has the cool job. I got to schlep all this gear. That's why I don't bring any drums anymore to gigs.
When I switched to bass. Whew, that was the best. God, that was so good.
Well, yeah, because you don't even have to bring a rig. Like, there's one there.
Yeah.
I'll just run through the MPEG. It's on the stage. It's fine. No one can hear it anyway.
I got my Helix. Just take to direct and leave me alone.
Yeah.
I will say that as much as
with Vini, he always, part of why he switched was he would always be stuck behind the drums, and he was always stuck singing. Nobody else at our grade level really wanted to sing.
Yeah.
But he always liked the idea of getting out in front, and that was part of what inspired the transition to bass, because it was still a rhythmic instrument.
But 4 strings, not a problem.
Show off.
Well, plus you have like an innate like desire to like sync up with the drummer, right? Because you play drums, so you're going to come at the tune in a similar way as to what you want to how you want to kick the band and like how you want to kind of do that kind of stuff, you know?
Yeah, there was a period not too long ago where me and Mason were writing a couple things, and I don't know if we just tapped into like our rhythmic roots, but we were just going off on like the craziest shit, manipulating time signatures, subdividing as much as we could, doubling every single measure so we can get down to like the most microscopic insanity. So it's like definitely being a drummer first helped me a lot with my internal rhythm, and a lot on bass, because like my wrist was already worked up so I could slap already. With like during like my first 2 weeks, I could slap, so it was pretty funny.
It kind of helps you put. I always thought it kind of helps put things into a different context, like because as a drummer, thinking of things more in form, because like you're kind of like holding down like grooves, right? So it's really like a giant set of form versus like thinking of progressions and thinking of like lead lines. It's really just like, we're going to do this section, then we're going to do this section. So thinking of things more from like a bigger picture kind of perspective. That's like something that I always kind of thought was a benefit of being a drummer. Cause you also have to make music out of something that doesn't really carry pitch. So you have a different approach to just making things sound musical and having melody in a different way. But yeah, Tuohy, you look like you want to ask a question. You look antsy.
I had a couple of thoughts. These are a little bit more serious. Now seeing where we sort of are now in 2020, right? Midway through May, and most of us have been sort of locked down for a while, and who knows when everything gets even some semblance of normalcy. How would you guys characterize, being a musician now in 2020, and what do you think the pathways are forward for people who are maybe listening to this down the road and say, I still want to be able to do something. What are skills that I should use? What should I be thinking about in this time? You guys have any advice for that?
Cat, take this one.
Well, I think one thing that we're seeing right away is just how broken everything is. I have so many friends that are doing this kind of thing full time, and they're really, kind of up shit's creek right now. So it really sucks right now. But I think if anything, this has sort of proved how you need to have other revenue sources outside of just performing and stuff. I know Periphery, for example, they're a band where they have all these different avenues that are inherently creative and inherently music related, but they're able to diversify things, whether it be selling signature models or plugins and stuff. So it's in 2020, it's not enough to just be a musician. It's exceedingly rare for that luxury. To just be a musician. You got to be your own manager. You got to be your own publicist. You got to do it all. So that's something that isn't necessarily new. The DIY thing has been around for quite a while now.
But how important is it now, right? Like you have to wear a bunch of hats.
It's imperative. And I think that's the only way that you're able to endure. And so much of it is endurance too, it's all about seeing how hard and how long you can stick it out, but also it goes to show work ethic is vital. And it's so easy now, especially in 2020, where you have all this content that's begging for your attention, whether it's YouTube or video games or movies or TV. There's so much even music. There's so many artists out there. So it's all about put in as much effort as you can, and more effort than the next guy into what you're doing. And you know, there's still a large degree of it that's luck. So I know if there was a surefire method, so many more of us would be famous right now.
Sure.
But it's all about endurance and staying true to yourself. And part of it is, you know, figuring out how to live and, you know, do music too. So it's a pretty involved and tricky thing, especially now. But it's still doable.
Yeah. Same.
Eloquently put.
Anything to add to that, Vinny? No, that's good. It's all good.
No, you're good. You know, he's the talker. He's the one that's good with the words.
He's got the stuff in the thing that he talks about with the mouth.
Like the way his lips move, you know.
Yeah. But all right, that's cool. All right, so I have.
Did you say with the mouth?
Yeah.
With the mouth.
That's good.
With the mouth and the stuff.
With the face hole. That's good.
Okay, so one of the things that I thought would be kind of interesting to talk about, because we had brought this up, I think, on the first episode of the podcast that we did. So what are important albums to you individually that didn't actually make a good impression the first time you heard them? Or maybe you didn't get it, or you really disliked it, or you hated it even, and now maybe it's one of your favorite albums. Do you guys have anything that's sort of falls in that category?
Sure, I do.
You want me to go first while you think?
Yeah, go for it. Maybe you'll ignite something.
So I'm gonna say, although it's certainly not an album that I hated or anything at the time, one of the first ones that I think of is Incubus's Morning View, which to me is one of my like top 3 albums ever.
Mm-hmm.
But at the time, you know, Incubus was doing some different stuff in that, you know, poppier kind of alternative rock realm. And I remember the first few times listening to it, I dug it and certainly appreciated the songs that I'd heard on the radio years before, but it didn't 100% connect right away. And it was one day I was sitting on the bus, you know, on the drive home from high school, and it was just a really nice day. And it was the old transcendental kind of everything. I'm alive. And isn't it great that I'm in this moment in the grand scheme of life? And that was the music that I was listening to, and it kind of all struck me at the same time. And certainly every time I listen to it, that's part of it. For a while, especially when I was living in New Jersey, once the weather started to be really nice and I could lower the windows in the springtime, that was always the first album that I listened to. And it's one of those that now I know front and backwards, but yeah, it didn't grasp me right from the first listen.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm still thinking. I mean, with me, I don't know if I have any of those albums because, you know, not saying, I don't know. Maybe I don't give things a second chance.
It's cool, man. Some people don't. They know what they like, and they're just like, nope, they turned off and they leave.
I mean, definitely. I think that might be it for me. Like, you know, I'm trying to go through like my favorite albums, and I'm just like, so for me, like my favorite album, I think Cap already knows this, but The Stranger from Billy Joel is my favorite album. And I know, the first time I heard it was, all right, I know I love this album. This album's wonderful. It's perfect. Give me all of it all the time. And, you know, I don't know. Yeah, maybe I just don't give things second chances. But, you know, Cap introduced me to Incubus kind of like late in my high school career, where like maybe I should have jumped into it earlier. And I feel like I liked everything they were doing right away. You know, being like more creative and jumping from the new metal sound and into like more vibey alternative. And then even with Light Grenades, when they got more proggy, it was all like, yep, I like it. But like, actually now thinking about it, I think Porcupine Tree as a band took me a while to get into. Just because I think when Cap first threw me in Absentia, I was just like, I don't even know what life is with this. Like I wasn't listening to progressive music. I wasn't listening to anything like more expansive. And I remember, oh God, it was Blackest Eyes. I remember listening to Blackest Eyes, and I was just like, I have no idea what's going on. This song is so dynamic. Like it was just like this heavy riff, and now it's an acoustic guitar. It does not compute.
Mm-hmm.
So I definitely didn't hate it, but did not
Didn't
understand.
understand it, right? Yeah.
And now I'm just like, well, of course, this is what you do, and now this is kind of what I do for a living. But
Right.
Yeah.
so I guess I wish I could think of something so I could be like that guy to be like, well, this one David Bowie album was amazing, but if you listen to it backwards, but I don't know. Yeah, maybe that's my thing. It was like stuff that I didn't understand whatsoever and kind of rejected at first have now become like the biggest thing in music to me. So
yeah, I think there's something to say about albums like that, because I have so many of those records, especially getting into heavier music. I know, for example, like Colors from Between the Buried and Made, for example.
Yeah.
It's an album that the first few times I listened to it, it's like I had a hard time getting past the death growled vocals because I wasn't listening to that kind of stuff at the time. But all of the clean sections and guitar work were just utterly captivating. So I forced myself to listen to it until I was into death growls. Same thing with Calculating Infinity from Dillinger Escape Plan. It was one of those albums I would listen to, and it's like, okay, there's something going on here. There's all this complexity and stuff. What is going on?
Yeah.
And part of it is slowly digesting that and then eventually appreciating it.
Yeah. I don't think, what's funny? I don't think I liked Coheed the first time I heard them.
Me too.
I didn't like them. I mean, I heard Favor House Atlantic and I was just like, I don't like this. And now listening back to that album, I was like, this is the perfect song. Of course, this fits right here. And what else would you do with it? So yeah, maybe I think there may be certain bands, but maybe not albums.
Okay. Yeah, that the first time I remember I was sitting with Matt Covey, who was my practice room roommate at Western Connecticut, and he's a drummer. He's a great drummer. He actually played in Shai Hulud. He still plays in Shai Hulud. He writes for Modern Drummer magazine, and he picked up drums after me in the Flaming Tsunamis. So we like had some, we kind of have overlapped on stuff. And I remember him playing me Coheed, and the first time I heard it, I was like, man, you're normally like really on with everything you show me, but this is just not for me. And then fast forward,
no points, and may God have mercy on your soul.
Basically. And I remember that it wasn't until In Keeping Secrets I had really gotten into that record and then went backwards, and then everything started to make sense. But there was something just not aesthetic about Claudio's vocal the first time I heard it that I felt kind of like got in my way. That it kind of just kind of pulled the e-brake on my first experience. But to your point, I mean, mine's sometimes albums, but after John brought this up on another call, from a band perspective, like you said, Vinny, a band that I like really hated, but when I go back now, I'm like, this is actually pretty good. Is actually like 311. Like a lot of the stuff when in the moment, it was so
started on 311.
No, but it was so seen, like when it was a thing. And it was like the kids that were like into 311, like were kids that like I just didn't really vibe with normally.
That will definitely destroy a band.
That's a great, right? Yeah. Like
beautiful.
Like the album. I mean, it's a newer album, but Evolver was like killer, right? Like all those records are awesome. It's just that, I mean, even what's his face? Just the whole rap rock scene in general. Like, but when you go back and listen to those groups, like there's a lot of good stuff going on in those tunes. They were just, I think, caught too much up in the scene for me to kind of be like, nah, I'm going to go listen to like Dave Matthews and like, in high school, I was listening to like Dave Matthews and like Pantera. Like it was you get my car. I'd have like a girl in the car. I'd be driving around. I'd be like, 5 minutes alone. And I'd be like, yeah. And then it'd be like, stay. And they'd be like, oh, this is great. But yeah, so
it's funny that you bring the scene up, because I think that's probably the biggest reason why Mason will not listen to Coheed and Cambria, just because he's so jaded by the fan base. Because like Coheed to me is the big scene band that got huge. You know what I mean? So now like it's even to the point where I don't like going to Coheed concerts because I don't want to get the shit beat out of me by a friggin' teenager that all he wants to do is push in the pit It's like I'm gonna go on the balcony and like actually enjoy the music.
Right.
But yeah, like I think that band for me was Sublime, hands down, because people like are just nuts about them, and I'm just like, I don't get it, and it's like I hate it because you like it so much.
So, what you want? I guess I could save it for the next one, but the next call or Zoom we have. But one band. This will be my last thing I'll say, and then we'll start wrapping up. But I gotta say, let's do this really fast. And you can't explain it, but what's one band that you just don't get that is like really, really famous that people would be like, you don't like the so and so? So I'll go first, right? I'll jump on the knife. So I don't get the Doors. I don't get it. I don't like it. I don't get it.
I'll get it.
I want to get it.
Not me.
I want to get it, and everyone's going to be pissed that I said that, but I just don't get it. So, and I'm from New Haven, and I don't know. I just don't get it. If somebody wants to send me some stuff and they tell me to listen to it, send it to me. But I'll listen to it. I have tried so many times. I just don't get it.
I mean, I'm gonna probably jump on the biggest prog knife. I mean, I do not like Dream Theater.
But you're not alone. They're like a love-hate band.
I know that. I definitely know that I'm not alone. But it's just every time I listen to them, I'm just like, nah, I'm good. I'm all right. I can leave this. I can let it be. It's just not my kind of prog. But yeah, for me, it's Dream Theater. I just like, I get it. I understand why people like them. It's just not me.
Yeah, no, but that's about the most honest thing you could possibly say about something. Even if a ton of people like it, it's like I respect why people like it. It's not total shit, right? But I don't. But you don't like it.
It's like we've met Mike. We've toured with his son.
Right. Yeah,
he's a nice guy. It's just I don't know. I just don't get it.
All right, I'll go. Grateful Dead.
Oh, me too.
Yeah.
Okay, so now, John, pick another one because nobody on this call is a Grateful Dead.
No one's Grateful Dead. I don't know.
So
if that's shocking. Oh, okay, I got one. All right, I didn't get Jimi Hendrix forever.
Oh,
forever.
Wow. That's impressive.
I didn't get Hendrix until maybe this is embarrassing, but I'm going to say it anyway. Like maybe 5 or 6 years ago, I was like, okay, yeah, I get. He was a cool image, and his songs were cool, but like I don't get why is he considered like the number one rock guitar player of all time? Why is he revered? And then I started listening to him a lot deeper. Maybe 5 years ago, I was like, I think I'm starting to get why that would be something. But for forever. Yeah. For most of my life, I liked some songs, but it was not like everybody says, who's their top 5 guitar players, and Hendrix is almost always in there if you've been alive in the last 50 years. So there you go. How's that?
Cool. Yeah,
that's a good one.
Makes sense.
I would say for me, one that it's I've tried numerous times. The Rolling Stones, I can't. I've tried really hard. One of my coworkers used to work at a CD store. So for Christmas this year, he gave everybody all these extra copies that he had of Sticky Fingers. Everybody in the entire store got a copy of Sticky Fingers. And I tried, couldn't do it. Otherwise, another band, Fall Out Boy. I can't do Fall Out Boy.
Oh, I need Fall Out Boy in my life all the time.
The Stones are weird. You know what it is? Like, I don't think it's not that I don't like it. It's not that I just don't care. I put it, but you know what I mean? Like I put it on and I want to listen to it, and I get like maybe 2 minutes into a tune and I'm like, I'm just going to listen to something else.
Yeah. I think
it doesn't.
Here we go. I got another one. That is extra evident in the presence of wolves. I can't stand Brand New. Get them out of my life.
Brand New.
My life. So these guys, Vini and Mason in particular, would listen to Deja Entendu. I think was the only record that they really listened to all the time, or Devil and God. At one point while we were on tour, I was literally plotting on how to, the next time they played one of those records, to squeeze up front, eject it, and throw it out the window.
Dude, me and Mason are just so about Brand New.
They're a good band. Sorry, Chris.
Yeah, they're great. And, and I think this kind of piggybacks off what you were saying, Dave, and like how the scene will destroy a band for you. And I think if me and Mason didn't, shove this down Cap's throat so much on tour that like he might be actually into them. But now he's just like, no, I hate it and I hate you. So, it's a very funny time.
All right, before we wrap up here, guys, I got a couple more comments that we're gonna. If anybody has a comment on their comment,
Cool.
I see Joseph Callahan says I have tickets for 311 and Incubus for August. Hopefully, it's still on.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah,
That's awesome.
That tour is high school me
right.
in one evening. When they announced that, I was just like, yes, I'm a freshman again.
I'm back.
Bring it on.
I saw 311 with the Roots, and it was like awesome. It was just killer show.
We saw 311 with Snoop Dogg, and it was a night that I will never remember because I've never messed around with weed or anything, but I am 90% sure I was contact high that
We
night.
were all
during Snoop Dogg's set. The crowd was so insane, and then during 311 set, it was the same thing. Whereas the year before, when I saw 311, it was like the most chill experience ever. I had space; it was great. But that whole 311 show, I was holding on to this massive man in front of me just for dear life. So I was getting pelted on all sides by mosh pits. Yeah,
Awesome. Joseph Callahan says Nirvana is his band that he would say he never got.
I can see that.
I have to admit,
Pearl Jam's another one.
I think a lot of the 90s grunge for me, it just escaped me for the longest time until I started getting into probably the Dillinger Escape Plan, and then started working back and then started discovering their influences, like Black Flag and the whole punk movement. And then once you start moving forward with that, eventually you'll hit Nirvana, and then you'll discover that it's like Nirvana is like the Melvins meet the Beatles. You know what I mean? Like their songwriting was wonderful, but it was heavy and aggressive. So that's kind of what won me over for them.
Nice.
Yeah.
Cool. So listen, everybody, it is 9:12 p.m. Eastern time. So we're going to wrap it up with the guys from In the Presence of Wolves. Thank you guys for jumping on tonight.
No problem.
Hanging out with us.
Can I ask a question?
Of course you can. Yeah.
'Cause I want to know where everybody's with this. What are your favorite Corona jams? What are the songs that, like, whether Corona related or not? Because there have been some fantastic, literally COVID-19 songs that I adore. I'm just curious what y'all have been listening to.
Actual like parodies or
Are these songs about COVID-19, or are they songs that get you through?
Have you guys heard any fun songs about COVID-19?
yes.
No, but
I have.
Really?
One of my this guy that I've played gigs with, he's a rehearsal pianist for Broadway and other various things, and he put out a version of Dancing Queen called Quarantine, and it's really it's awesome. Dig into Quarantine. It's about this, and they have a whole video they shot where they're like love cleaning, and so this is like the perfect time to clean when you're at home. So she just cleans the entire house. It's really it's tongue in cheek, but ABBA's Dancing Queen done to the tune of Quarantine.
Yes.
I will finish it, John. I have the lyrics done, but I wrote a version of Glycerine with Quarantine.
Beautiful.
And the lyrics are
Really,
fantastic.
Yeah,
I sent John version 1. I just literally banged it out in one take. I was just like, done.
Yeah.
Done. I don't think I've heard any songs, but I did see a video on Facebook, and it was this guy dressed in drag, dressed as Tina Turner, and called himself Quarantina Turner, which just got me. I was like, this is awesome.
It's incredible.
It was wonderful. That was
I
it
have
for me.
four Corona jams.
All right.
I'll run through them brief.
Okay.
Number 1, Sam Greenfield from Thank You Scientist did a little a cappella song called I Want to See My Friends, and it's wonderful.
Yeah,
Number
man.
2, there's this rap song that the chorus is literally, move, bitch, you got coronavirus. Oh, shit, you got coronavirus.
Yeah,
That's awesome.
It rules. Number 3, not coronavirus related, but stemmed from quarantine. There's this little 8-year-old girl that wrote a song called What's Inside Your Butthole.
What's Inside Your Butthole is amazing.
Ever. It rules.
Can you send these to us so that we can put them up on the page?
Yeah, man.
Absolutely. And then number one is there's this remixed version of. Are you familiar with the like crazy televangelist Kenneth Copeland?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, he's the dude with like the really kind of creepy eyes.
Right.
He did this whole thing where he was blowing away. He was blowing COVID-19 away.
Oh.
COVID-19.
When he did a hip hop remix to it, it has no right to be the banger that it is. That's my number one.
Oh, all right. We're gonna have to put a link to that, guys. That's awesome.
There's a song that I think John Oliver was talking about it.
Oh,
the Wash Your Hands one.
The Korean song.
And that song is killer.
Song too. That's number 5.
I was like,
That's
this
my
song's
favorite
awesome.
Korean.
This song's great. It had something to do with like how to wash your hands, and it was like awesome. I'll have to find them. So Tuohy, you want me to wrap it up? Let's wrap this thing up.
Sounds good.
Wrap this John.
So in the presence of wolves, ladies and gentlemen, they have actually captivated the audience for the longest out of any of our calls over the past few weeks.
Oh, hey.
Not surprised.
You guys set the record. So make sure we come in next week on Monday
Joe Denninson.
for Joe Denninson. We're going to be sitting down and talking to him. He's a fantastic violin player. He plays classically. He has a book out, and he's actually doing he just put up a bunch of sheet music of pop songs for like 100 tunes up for sale for those of you who want to shred like Coldplay on your violin. You could buy all of his transcriptions. So check that out on Monday. And again, this is Mile Marker Zero signing off from the Hour Zero podcast with In the Presence of Wolves tonight. Thank you very much, guys.
The Wolves.
Thank you so much for having us.
Can you shoot out your URL? What's the socials so they can go visit?
It's either at In the Presence of Wolves or ITPOW. ITPOW band. It depends on the service.
ITPOW band or at In the Presence of Wolves. Very good, guys. Thank you so much.
Guys, thank you so much.
Tuohy, can you play us out with some tunes?
I'm going to play us out with some tunes.
Do you guys have a request on what song you want us to play?
Glycerin.
We're going to get taken down for that. It has to be one of yours.
Oh, okay. It's got to be our songs. All right. Vin, what do you want?
I haven't heard that in so long.
Ape in the Cage.
Done.
See you guys.
Cheers, everybody. Thank you.